Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to another author interview. We are here today with Chad Lutzke, who has actually been on the channel before, but it was literally like, Steve, you said I'd been here 3 years. So it's been almost 3 years, I think, since you were here the last time. But he came last time. We talked his 5 influential horror. Highly recommend that episode. It was a fantastic conversation. He had some phenomenal stories, especially pertaining to Evil Dead. So I'll try to remember to link that in the cloud. But today we are talking about an upcoming release he has for a book called Bruises on a Butterfly. The pre-order link, I will have all of the stuff for where you can find this in the description for this episode, of course. This actually comes out on January 26th. So this will come out soon. And then just a little bit after, this will be out and ready for release. So yeah, we're just going to sit and talk with him about this book and just, have some fun talking about, we love talking to horror authors and filmmakers and stuff. So it's always a good time. Chad, do you want to kind of just give an introduction about who you are and kind of some other projects you've done?
Sure. I wanted to ask though, is the purple and the butterflies, is that special just for me?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Are you impressed with how close I got it to the cover? Because I messaged Steve and I was like,
pretty.
look how close this is.
I am Chad. I've written some books, about 20 of them. I have a couple more coming out. One, Bruises on a Butterfly, this month. And then next month, I have another one coming out called The Bedmakers that I wrote with John Bowden. I write dark literary fiction. I don't know that, a couple of the books are they're just horror, I guess, but a lot of the stuff I've written is more like horror adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
I've written some crime, like grit lit, Southern goth type stuff, even some humorous stuff, a couple children's books with my wife that we wrote and illustrated together. And I guess that's it.
Yeah. I didn't realize there had been that many books. That's a lot. I think the only other one I own a physical of is Cannibal Creator, because I think I pre-ordered that one back when it first came out. So I have a paperback of that one. 20. That's a lot.
That's probably my least favorite book.
What?
I like it. It's just it's not really, I don't know. It's not really me. So a friend of mine read it and he's like, it feels like you wanting to do something different, but maybe your heart wasn't in it. And I don't remember how it's not exactly what he said, but it doesn't feel like me, but people like it. It's just, I guess, I don't know. I wanted to pay homage to 70s Italian horror cannibal films. And that was my way of doing it. But
yeah, I think that's pretty clear. That comes through.
We're always the worst critics, though, right?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with Bruises on a Butterfly, I guess, I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about like the cover, where you came up with the title, inspiration for the story, and just kind of what that journey was like for you.
The cover was done by Francois Vaillancourt. He did a great job.
Yeah.
I gave him a couple of ideas that I wanted. One had to do with a cornfield and like a green type of thing, but decided to go with this one. I did not want to do the cover myself because I don't know why. I just wanted to see what somebody else would. I do most of my covers myself, but I wanted to see what somebody else would do it. And Cemetery Dance was offering to pay Francois Vaillancourt. I was like, shoot, let's do that then. Yeah. I don't remember exactly where I got the initial idea, but though I do remember a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, watching Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage. And there's a scene in there where I can't remember if it's the mom or a son. Their just body is just it's melding together and they're in pain and agony. And it's like my favorite scene in the movie. And I was like, man, what a way to go. That's very cool. I mean, not very cool to go that way, but it was cool to watch.
Conceptually speaking.
Aesthetically,
Yeah.
Conceptually, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it looked cool. And I think that maybe that may have planted a seed. I love body horror stuff. I think that my definition of body horror is a little bit different than most people's these days. I
Yeah.
think of body horror as just like I don't know, like very abnormal. I don't know, Cronenberg stuff like The Brood and Videodrome and Rabid, Basket Case, I guess would be one too. Just things where things are like something's wrong with this person's body. But I've seen other people just talk about it, how define it different ways. And so I don't know. I love coming of age stuff. I've written a lot of it. I guess it's one of my favorite things to write. I was initially only going to write one, and then I kept writing them, and I guess that well hasn't run dry yet. So I like, I guess it's a way of, I don't know, reliving my youth. Not that my arms and legs were ever melding into my body, but just playing in cornfields, building forts, hanging out with friends, being kind of rebellious and doing stupid stuff. I'd like to explore that and kind of relive that, but with different characters in different scenarios. I don't know if that answered all of your questions, but
yeah, I think that checked them all. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to ask, because you sort of mentioned, like, some of your own childhood and the boys' dynamic is very fun in this. And they're building up the fort and the playing in the cornfields. Was that a sort of like a big part of your childhood?
Oh yeah, building forts was huge. And I lived out I grew up out in the country, and so we had cornfields out there and woods and stuff. So we were always doing, building forts. Like I can't even tell you how many different styles, like everything from like tiny little log cabin type things to just like a tornado came through our neighborhood. It just barely hit our neighborhood and knocked a bunch of big trees down. And those made cool forts because you've got this tree on the ground now. And so you could hang all this cool stuff on it, and you still have all the leaves on it. And you could, it was a lot of fun. But it was just, or building stuff up in trees underground. I remember one time my friends and I grabbed shovels, and we were going to dig tunnels all over. We thought that we were strong enough to, in that we would not give up, and we were going to just dig this giant tunnel and then have passageways and play Dungeons and Dragons down there and light torches on the walls and stuff. And I think we dug a hole that was maybe, I don't know, 8 feet across and maybe like 3 feet deep that summer, and then just gave up.
That's a lot of work.
Big undertaking.
With pulling so much from like talking about how this relates to like your own childhood with some of those more like lighthearted things, did that impact like your ability to write some of the tougher content that's in this?
No. I mean, my childhood was far from really that lighthearted. So no, I drew from a lot of just trauma and grief and stuff like that, and just what ifs. I'm just able to draw pretty, even if it doesn't perfectly match that scenario. I'm able to kind of dive into how I think these kids might respond to something like this.
Well, it sounds like emotionally wise, like, because I know like I didn't get an opportunity to finish it before our chat, but I know Steve did. And it definitely struck, some emotional chords with you.
Yeah, right? I mean, I know I messaged you, Chad, as I finished it. And I don't know if I talk about this sometimes on the channel, but my day job is I'm a therapist. So I sort of, the reason why I gravitate towards the horror genre in general is I just love how it sort of just lends to being able to talk about trauma and grief and mental health in such a cathartic way. So is that sort of a because this is my first novel of yours that I had a chance to read, so now that I know there's 20 of them, I'm like, oh, okay. I've got some research to do. But is that sort of a common thread for you in terms of like just being able to explore these kinds of topics through your work?
What topic, like, specifically?
Oh, sort whether it's trauma, like you said, grief, or does mental health come up at all?
Yeah. I think that you'll have to forgive me. I think I've probably written 6 books since I wrote Bruises on a Butterfly. So I can't remember the characters' names, but the boy who is being the boy who leaves home. What's his name?
Taylor?
Do you know? Taylor? Okay. I'll take your word for it. I can't remember. So embarrassing. Okay, so Taylor, that's not necessarily like me. It's kind of like, I guess I think this goes to, I think all authors do this, and they put a little bit of themselves into a lot of their characters. They might have one that's specifically them. With Taylor, he's one of my favorite. Well, he actually used to be one of my favorite characters because he was so complex, but beta readers were afraid of something, so I made him less complex. They were afraid that because in the original draft, he was kind of, I guess, ambiguously homosexual.
Oh, okay.
And
I think that still reads in the current.
Okay, well, it was a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
But it's also one of these things where, and people are so, I don't know, sensitive to stuff like this, and I'm not gay and I'm white, and so I just don't want to deal with this kind of stuff. It's like I loved the kid the way he was, but I think 6 beta readers read it, and I think 3 of them came back with me, and it was still subtle, but it was less subtle. And I'm not saying that Taylor is gay. I'm just saying that I remember, being a teenager or a preteen rather, and getting confused. I hung out with a couple of guys that were, one in particular, he was like 3 years older than me. So he had already reached puberty, was into girls and stuff, and I wasn't. And I think it was maybe 10 or 11. And I remember we were reading, or he brought over a Penthouse magazine. And I was looking at it, and I'd seen breasts before, but I'd never seen other stuff. And so he opened, in Penthouse, it's a little bit more risque than Playboy. They show more. And so I'm looking at this with a couple of friends of mine, this older kid and his little brother. And he says something to the effect of, it's just like what he would like to do to her. I don't want to say exactly because I don't want to be crude. But I just looked at him. I was like, dude, that's so gross. And he just laughed. He's like, oh man, dude. He's like, Chad, one day you'll get it. And of course he's right. But I remember thinking, so I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if I grew up, 40 years later, if I wouldn't have had different thoughts about, well, who am I and why don't I like this? And stuff like that. And I would have been really confused. Yeah. And that would have turned into, but this was probably 1980. And so I just wasn't worried about it. Nobody was really worried about that kind of stuff. And then I just, Taylor, to me, personally, I don't know if he's gay or not. I make a suggestion in there that he's just a late starter. That maybe he's a late starter, and maybe he is, because not everybody, you don't just turn a certain age and all of a sudden you want to start having sex and stuff.
Sure.
Or that you're attracted to, the opposite sex or anything like that. So people reach this at completely different levels. And so that was kind of that was part of him. And I liked that about him. And I liked that the way that he handled things, the way that he handled pornography, it wasn't a big deal to him, whether that be because it didn't turn him on yet, or it never would, or because it's around his house constantly and he sees it all the time because his dad's always leaving it out. But I can't even remember the question, but trauma.
We were talking about like trauma,
mental health, and
so psychologically, I was trying to build this character that was more complex than what I might normally write, with some possible baggage. Maybe you be the judge.
Yeah.
And I have other books like that too, where you'd think that I came from a bad home and that I was a depressed person, because I have so many, I don't know, situations where I'm like, I'm writing a book and I'm like, am I seriously writing about foster homes again, or bad mothers? Or my mother's awesome. You know, I'm like a mama's boy. And so we're very close, but you'd think that, yeah, I came from this poor, bad home or something. I think I'm just attracted to things like that, struggles in particular in your teens. I've been through that kind of stuff, but most of that stuff I've put myself through. I've been homeless and had to eat out of dumpsters and stuff like that. But that's kind of like, I left home at 16. I didn't want to have a bedtime, and I was in love and I wanted to be with this girl all the time. And I just couldn't handle rules in school and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm off and on couch hopping all the time and not able to eat and stuff. So it wasn't because, you know, it was like, I guess, self-inflicted, I should say.
Yeah.
But so things like that, and just, personal traumas, loss, stuff like that, I just draw on. And I guess for some strange reason, maybe it's because I have experience, I'm attracted to that, and I tend to have characters have some issues like that.
I really enjoyed Taylor's story, just even as a queer person, just because, and I gravitated even to that little inkling that you put in there. I was like, yeah, caught on to something, just because I'm like, you know, I feel like we, you know, especially prior to coming out, it's like we all have those moments of like, I'm not like my friends. There is something. Is there something wrong with me? And like, I mean, I think that kind of existential question is, I think, universal, kind of regardless of, you know, just the what's different about me that I can't relate to them, right? And that's a very isolating feeling, I think. And I think you tap on that beautifully with Taylor.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you know, you're the first person that I've actually talked to, other than like close friend, like my wife or John Bowden. I think you're the first person. So it's ironic that you're gay and we're talking about this character that people were telling me don't do it.
Yeah.
You know? And again, I'm not saying it's still. To me, I'm not saying that he is. I'm just saying it's there, and I don't know. I think the more important message is that his friends don't care, and that they are there for him, no matter what. And he's going through some shit.
Yeah. It almost makes me bummed that there was more of it in there that you took out.
I think it's a testament to things like that too, though, with like the whole point of writing any sort of you know, emotional experience, whether, you know, it's a bad memory, a good memory, when you can write it in a way that's going to hit, because there may be somebody else reading this exact, you know, this book, and that character reads different for them in a completely different way. And it's kind of like, to me, that's how we know that it's beneficial to write a bunch of different experiences, because you don't know what you write is going to make someone else feel.
There was a sort of a literary little device that you used in the novel that I also really enjoyed. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, right? But you sort of do this really cool parallel between the narrative and then the story that Taylor's writing. What can you talk about that? I mean, obviously, without spoiling too much.
Yeah, you're talking about the story that Taylor's writing. Yeah. That's just me trying to do something different and hope that, and just wonder, will this ruin the book? Like, I have no idea what people, that you're the first person again that I've talked to that has brought that up. When it was getting ready to get published, I was going through edits, and I was like, man, should I have put that in there? Or should I have just pulled that? Does it kind of ruin the book? Does it pull people out? Do they understand the parallels here? Particularly at the end of Taylor's story that he's writing. That was just me trying to, I appreciate when an author like swings for the fences and they're just like, and sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes it does. I know Stephen Graham Jones does that just even with his prose, because I love his stuff, but I've seen some people that don't. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. You know, he's a little ADD with his prose sometimes. And Malerman's the same way, you know, kind of swinging for the fences. And I've seen some people are like, yeah, nah. And then some people love it. And even is minute as it might seem, that's kind of what I was doing, was just like, let's have something different. Let's go back and forth with this children's story, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I think it was really interesting because it gives you, because it's not written in first person, but it's an opportunity to get in his head as far as like how is that playing out? How is he? It's honestly almost like he was having doing like a narrative creative therapy moment, right? Yeah. Of like how is he processing what was going on for him? I mean, you know, I'm honored to be one of the first to talk to you about these things because it is really cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it really was. I think it played out beautifully because when it's in third person, you're not really getting those like in your head moments. But this was sort of the opportunity to sneak that in.
Right. Yeah.
And you said you wrote this a while ago. When was this, like, how long ago did you write this story?
I think I want to say like maybe 3 years ago. I remember when I finished it, I sent it off to Tor Nightfire, and their submission guidelines said you might not hear back from us for 9 months. So I was like, cool. And at the time, I really wanted to get in with Tor Nightfire. So I sent it. Actually, I think the first place, I think I said it somewhere else. And they were only choosing, they got a ton of submissions and they were only choosing like 3 books or something. So I didn't get chosen. So then I sent it to Tor Nightfire and I waited the 9 months, then 10, then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. By that time, I was just kind of pissed. I was like, how many people are working over there? 1, you know? I mean, 15 months, I could wait 15 months if you tell me, but we're 6 months past
what you said.
It's a long time.
So then I saw Cemetery Dance was having an open call and I was like, screw it, man, I'm pulling this book. It's just sitting there. For all I know, that's their way of saying no thanks. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I pulled it and I sent it to Cemetery Dance. I think I heard back within a month or so. And that was maybe a year ago. So I mean, that's like almost 2.5 years being wrapped up just with trying to find it a home right there.
Yeah. So with them, was it just trying to get it on their schedule of what they were going to put out?
With Cemetery Dance? Yeah. All publishers, even smaller publishers, are getting a little slow these days. And I part of it, I understand. They want to give attention to books.
Yeah.
I only understand that if they're really, truly going to give attention to that book.
Yeah, agreed.
Then I understand. If they're not, I don't understand. So that's all I'll say. But
I know that's a bit of a rabbit hole even for me because
I've self-published probably 2/3, maybe even 3/4 of my books. Because I know how to do covers, I know how to format. I don't understand, you know, and I already have a readership. Why give half of my royalties to somebody who's going to do the same exact thing and they're not going to reach farther than I am? So far, I have no idea if this is one of those books, but Cemetery Dance, Richard Chismar, you know, I was like, I'll try it. And some publishers I go back to, Crystal Lake being one of them, because I love what they do. I love Joe.
I've heard good things about them.
I've always been paid.
Right.
He tries really hard to get the book out there. So and then there are some other publishers where I'm just like, we won't be doing this again.
And I mean, so I've done self-publishing for everything that I've put out, And I just sort of have like an issue, like because I'm friends with a lot of authors. And so I always just hear these horror stories of things they've experienced when they go through these smaller publishers, more indie publishing, that kind of thing. And I'm just like, yeah, I think it's scary because it's hard to like take something you've put all this time and effort and love into and then trust it to someone that just like doesn't care or messes it up or it's a bad experience. So I definitely understand that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you don't know, some people just don't want to deal with all of it. They just want to write. And they're like, you deal with this stuff.
Sure.
You know, and if that's what you want to do, fine. But I've even talked to some friends of mine too, where I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you've self-published before. Why are you giving this to this publisher? They're not doing, they're not going to promote it. So, but yeah, some people just really, truly want to watch it because it's a lot of hard work.
It is.
Trying to set up stuff like this. So thanks guys, by the way, for doing this. Trying to set up stuff like this and just getting the word out and just, so.
Yeah, it's you have the creative side and then the business side, and some people just don't want the stress of the business end, but that is
I get it.
A big part of it, right?
Yeah, the business end of it sucks. It's obviously the least fun part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is your writing process like? I love asking this question. As a wannabe writer myself, like I don't. It's kind of my slick way of being like, help.
Yeah.
What is your process?
Nothing special. I write when I just feel up to it, and I do not outline. I did outline during NaNoWriMo. I don't know if you guys know what NaNoWriMo is.
I do. Yeah.
I participate in that every year, and it's just like motivation for me. I don't think it's any magical thing, but I guess for me it is, because when I make a dedication and a commitment like that, I always stick to it.
Yeah.
And so it's a good excuse to set myself up for, because I know that I'm going to write 50,000 words. Mm-hmm. And so I had a very intertwined mosaic type novel idea. And so I thought it'd be best if I outline that. But I pants everything. I normally write on Google Docs or Notebook. I've written 2 or 3 books just on a notebook with a pen or pencil, and in the summer I'll write outside, and in the winter or if it's at night or too cold or rainy, I'll write inside, whether it be my bedroom or in my office. I spend a lot of time in my office, so I try to get out as much as I can, because I do graphic design too, and I just like to get out of here.
Yeah.
But I don't have any. I usually I tried something different with Nano, but normally when I'm writing, I edit as I go. So by the time that I'm done, it's a pretty darn clean first draft. Of course, I got to do a couple more drafts, but it's very clean. That's all I can think of as far as my process, but I don't have any like rituals or anything like that, or any certain time of day or anything like, nothing fancy, just when I feel like it.
Doesn't have to be fancy, right? It's just whatever works for you.
Whatever works. Yeah. I think you sort of hinted at this, but so like when you do writing projects, do you just focus on the one project that you're working on, or do you do like you do bounce around? Okay. No. I wasn't sure based on you.
I wish. No, I wish. For Nano I did. I always do, because I would just, there's been times when I've got a couple short stories due for maybe some anthology invites. And then I'm working on a collaborative book with somebody, and then I've got this other thing that I'm working on, and then maybe I'm doing a second draft of something else. So I counted, and I have like 14 different books in various stages.
Oh wow!
None of them finished, and then I have a couple that are finished. But I have so many that I'm like, I forget about. I was like, oh man, remember that one book that you started that was so crazy and you were having fun like 2 years ago? It's like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've met a writer yet that just sticks to one, but I was just curious. Like I think most people bounce around. That's funny.
Well, that's sort of the creative brain, right? You get this one idea, you run with it. You get this idea, and then you run with it.
Muse is fickle.
Yeah.
Like it just, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. The only other thing I was really interested in asking, and it's just because I am friends with so many writers, and I'm friends with people who are trying to get into writing, who haven't even had anything published yet. Especially because you've been doing it for as long as you have, and you've had so many things out. What's something that you think you've learned through all of that you would then, pass on to someone else that you think could just be really beneficial advice?
Oh, I've learned so much. I learned from the bad experiences, like with publishers.
Yeah.
Writing is one thing, and publishing, they're one thing where you really can benefit from the bad experiences. Like now kind of like a relationship. Now I know what I need. Now I know what to look for to not have.
True. Yeah.
And that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Same way with the publisher. I'm not getting bed with that person because I recognize these red flags from this last publisher that I had. But I would say be careful not to compare your success to others. That's a trap that you can fall into very easily. Don't just have fun. If you're some people say if you're writing to make money, then just stop. But I'm not. I don't really agree with that. I'm not one of these writers who I didn't read a novel until I was like almost 24 years old. I did not like books.
Yeah.
And I didn't start writing. I wrote a couple in that first year where I finally just started reading, and I was reading tons. When I was 24, I wrote like 4 short stories, and then I didn't write any more for 20 years.
Yeah.
And then so I wrote again when I was 44. And so I don't I say all that to say that I'm not one of these writers who like I just have to get the words out. I need to write because I'm not. I really don't even have very much fun when writing. I'm an artist who paints too, and I actually hate painting. I get really stressed out because I'm a perfectionist, and it never looks. There are a few paintings that I'm like really proud of, and I should be proud of more of them, but I'm always looking at them like I don't even really like hanging them up. I got a stack of paintings behind me that were hanging that I took down that I had painted that I'm just like, tired of looking at them. Because I just critique them and judge them and stuff like that. And so it's kind of weird that I don't. The only thing artistically that I do really enjoy is writing songs and recording them.
Yeah.
I'm not so much a perfectionist when it comes to something like that, and I don't know why, but it's not stressful for me, and like writing and painting is. But I'm shocked at how many, for somebody who hated books, to have as many books out as I did. Kind of a shocker.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it's quite an interesting relationship with the art form itself. I don't know if you can quite call it a love-hate. It's sort of a little more complicated than that. I have this really long shelf of anthologies and books and limited editions and stuff that all have my name in them, and I'm super proud. I love to look up, and I love to see the cover here, and I love that Steve read that. These are the things that I like. I don't like the writing. I just get off on people enjoying what I did. That part of it's worth it, but the connection piece of it,
the getting there, not so much. I mean, there's a couple of books I wrote that I really did have a lot of fun. I didn't want to really stop, but just a couple. And I think it's because I like them all, but these 2 books, they were just, the process of writing them was just so much fun, and I felt like anything goes. I could put anything in here. There's no rules, and I just had a lot more fun with it. And they were just more like slice of life kind of stuff rather than just plot driven. I don't know.
Yeah.
Slice of life horror. That would be interesting. What would that look like?
I've written some slice of life stuff. I don't know that you would call it horror, more like a dark, like drama type stuff. You know, but that I love, because I like watching movies like that too. Slice of life indie films. Like I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something, very, I don't know if cathartic or calming is it bad, but it's something that's just, it's a look into sort of humanity in a different way.
Yeah.
Sort of like you said, like like a plot being driven.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Steve, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on while we have him?
I think whether I asked it or it was just part of you talking, I think you sort of answered a lot of stuff that was on my mind without going really into spoilers, right? Because this book has not come out yet. So when does Bruises on a Butterfly get released?
January 26th, 16 days from today.
Yep.
And then I don't know what day of the week that is. Maybe a Tuesday. I'm not really sure. Should be a Tuesday, but
the 26th is a Friday.
Okay, Friday, payday. So yeah, go out and get it and tell your friends. And then on my birthday in February, on the 13th, I have. This is a pretty dark version of it. I don't know if you could see it, but I have this book, The Bedmakers, coming out with John Bowden, and I'm very, very excited about. I'm more excited about that probably than I am. I don't know why. I just
maybe the collaborative part of it.
Yeah, well, John and I have written together a handful of times, and it's always fun. But I guess that this book feels more accessible. Like it's more of a crime thriller, where Bruises is not necessarily for everyone. Where I think this is more like that. With all the body horror and bruises. But I mean, I love them both, so I'm proud of both of them.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot to be proud of. You know.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that is it on my end, Angel.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to ask because you got to read everything, so just in case there was anything you didn't get a chance to say.
There was, because I know you talked about your friendships. There wasn't a jar of urine and vinegar in your childhood, was there?
No.
Okay.
No. When I was close. When I was 17, 18, my friend and I had an apartment. I had an apartment, and then he moved in, and we were just stoner kids at the time. I haven't touched a joint since 1988, 1989. But at the time, boy, did I partake. And we had this 2 liter of Mountain Dew that was empty, and we spit in it for some reason all the time. And then we put this label on it, and we wrote lung cheese on the side of it. And it was going to be like our bomb. Like if any enemies would, come into our apartment in the middle of the night, we'd have the lung cheese thing, and we would open it. So that may be where that came from.
It's very similar. I was like, but I love how it comes back around at the end. I think that was a very,
me too. Yeah, I'm proud.
Very
of that.
powerful at the
Thank
end
you.
there. Other than that, I mean, I love the shout outs to Clive Barker. There were a lot of really good horror references here.
Really? Because I don't remember. I don't remember. So when you said Clive Barker, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But yes, I remember now. Thief of Always.
Yeah.
And he was and there's another reason why that's his favorite author, and you can probably figure that out. But I guess,
because he's gay.
But The Thief of Always, because and it's a children's book. It's actually my daughter's favorite book.
Oh,
too. So
well, that's
she read
awesome.
it a long time ago. She loved it.
Yeah, but thank you. It really was an honor to get a chance to read it early. And I hope
And
others...
like I said, I really appreciate you like tackling it like right away. I do enjoy these a lot more if people have read something, rather than like, tell us about yourself and then just like a bunch of, generic questions or whatever, which I have no problem doing. But it's fun for me if we can talk about something, like, so I didn't expect either of you to read this book because you just got it.
Yeah, I didn't have time. Yeah.
And so I was shocked, Steve, when you said that you read it. So I really
He's committed.
I was committed to the bit. I was committed.
Always.
I also just got lucky. Sometimes I get nice breaks in between clients, and I'm like, it's a decent size. I guess, would you consider it a novella? Because it's at what, 100?
It's under 200 pages, like 140 something.
Yeah. And I don't like do any fancy speed reading or anything like that. I just, because then you don't really, because speed reading technically that's like you don't really absorb it.
It's just skimming, yeah.
Yeah, that's more like the skimming side. But no, I enjoy it. Like I said, it was a gut punch in a good way, but it was a gut punch.
Cool.
Yeah, he messaged me, and I don't know if he said the same thing to you, but he was like, "Now I'm depressed." I was like, "Well, that means it made you feel things. That's a good thing, right?"
Absolutely. I like horror and stuff that like just leaves you feeling.
Yeah. Even I tear up sometimes. There's been a couple books where I would write something and I teared up. I think one of my favorite scenes in Bruises on a Butterfly is where, and I don't know that it will hit anybody else but me this way, but when they are taking the wagon through the road, and I think this is where it's happening, and at some point they say they're running and they scream "F you."
Yes.
I don't know why, but that's like one of my, I remember just, I don't know, just kind of being like really emotional at that part because it was such, I don't know why, but I don't know if that particular part is going to hit anybody else that way.
Yeah. Hey, I think it's just the boys' camaraderie and like this little family that they have, the three of them. In that moment, it just echoes to what happens earlier in the book, and it's sort of them having their friends back, right? And I think that's a beautiful, it's a beautiful message. It's just a beautiful sort of like just moment for their friendship, right? So I totally see why that could be your favorite. But thank you so much, Chad. Really
Thank you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. And congratulations on your 800 subscribers too.
We're getting there. We're close.
Almost.
We are so close.
I just I'm in the process of starting a YouTube channel, and it's I've invested a lot of money and a lot of time into it. I haven't been writing or anything, so I hope that when I launch it, that things will. Yeah.
Oh, fingers crossed. Yeah, it's
good.
Yeah. I didn't realize
it's
I'd been doing it that long. It's a lot sometimes. I'd say I just took a break actually for that very reason, because I just got like burnout and I needed to take some time, and it's an interesting thing to balance. Of course, for me, it's and Steve has a little too, but I'm a single mom with a 5-year-old, so like my bandwidth is just very different now than it was before I had a kid or any of that stuff. So
for sure, it's a tough job being a mom, being a single mom.
Yeah, it can be worth every second, but it's a lot of work for sure. Yeah,
but you're killing it, Angel. This is just a love circle here. We're all killing it, right? Let's just cheer ourselves on for a moment, right? We gotta.
All right, cool. Well, I think that's all we have for this author interview. Thanks again, Chad, for sending the e-arcs and for being willing to come on and talk about it. The pre-order link for Bruises on a Butterfly will be on a butterfly is going to be in the description for this episode as well as Chad's website stuff where you can find him. And yeah, I think that's all we have for this one. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good weekend coming up, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Also, in case you missed it in the previous video, make sure that you go check out this awesome YouTube channel called Video Tasties. The slogan is protecting the past one VHS tape at a time. These guys do a lot of media stuff. 80s list, top list, physical media, collaborations, anything movie, film related, you can find there. There's some awesome, like tons of stuff for you to check out on their channel. I'll make sure to link them in the description for this episode.